Made to Thrive Nation, I've been waiting for Dr. Sean O'Mara for many, many months. Why? Because he is the specialist on belly fat, on heart fat, everything regarding visceral adipose tissue, endocardial adipose tissue. He is a performance physician, health and optimizing physician. It's a privilege to have got to know him on LinkedIn. Just a warm, warm welcome for your time, for your expertise, Sean. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, well, thank you very much for the invitation and the opportunity to be here, Steve, with you and your followers.
Brilliant. Now, I've been following you for a while and listening, and I want you to predict now because you are very good at predicting things, Dr. Amara. From my face now, you're going to predict my visceral adipose tissue. And I've had a DEXA scan, and I know you've said many times that someone's face is a picture of their health. So I want you to give me a good prediction on my visceral adipose tissue.
Yeah, so you've got, relative to other people, you have quite a low level of visceral fat compared to the average person. So I would probably quantify your visceral fat as less than a pound, but more than a half pound. And I would, say that for your age group, you're probably at the easily top, probably 8% of the population for your age group. So 92% of your contemporaries of your age would have a higher amount of influence from visceral fat. So if we dumped a lot of visceral fat in your face, inside your body, your face won't change for a while, but it's the influence over a period of time. So sometimes, people have a large amount, but they've gained it so quickly, their faces haven't shown it yet, and vice versa. You could have a very, low level of visceral fat, but it's been there for a very long period of time, and so you've got more influence. So overall, you're doing very good, I think, Steve. So tell me, what did the DEXA show you?
That's brilliant. So let's just quantify that in terms of, a kilogram is 2.2 pounds. So 500 grams would be like about a pound. Am I right?
Yeah, about a pound.
So when I first went for my DEXA, I was 120 grams on my visceral adipose tissue, and then I decided to change my diet a bit further, which tightened up to see if I got it down to 60 grams of visceral adipose tissue. So my question is that in the top 2.5 percentiles? Is that something you want to drive even as low as you can? What are the best readings you've seen?
Yeah, great question. So people ask me, what is a good level of visceral fat? Well, in asking that, it reflects a need to address the fundamental characteristic of visceral fat, and that is its disease. So you want none. So you want to go as low as you can get. It's not like this stuff improves you, like everybody's saying, I'll have some more visceral fat. I'll take some more visceral fat. So when it comes to fat, your body needs it, but it stores it in a much healthier form in your body, and really better thought of as on your body. And that is in superficial subcutaneous fat. So it's this layer fat outside your body that is much less inflammatory. So that you have a lower amount, I'd probably be putting you at the top, 5% of the population with those kind of numbers. But, numbers don't really change people's lives as much as sensing and seeing disease through your body's own experience. So what does that mean? If I told you had X amount of numbers in terms of cancer, but if you actually saw a cancerous tumor, the seeing of the cancerous tumor, or the touching of the cancerous tumor, or smelling its malodorous quality, those would be far more impactful in you wanting to get rid of the cancer than saying your cancerous tumor inside your colon weighs approximately 120 grams. That's not going to make you declare war and get rid of that cancer tumor as much as feeling it, seeing it, smelling it. You're not going to taste it. But so the idea behind visceral fat when I work with people is to image it, let them process it. When it comes to medical imagery, we rely almost exclusively on the interpretation of a physician. But I leverage the fact that we change our lives through our senses. That's how what guides us. That's what leads us to make better decisions. And so my physicians and I in my practice all have visual video reports we show our clients their MRI scans. We show them the disease forming around their heart, fat forming inside their muscles, stealing their lean musculature away from them and turning them into Wagyu beef and ribeyes along the way before they get to Wagyu beef. And by the time they've hit Wagyu beef and thereafter, they can't even walk anymore, Steve. They have to use a walker or they're stuck in a wheelchair. So the prudent man or woman starts looking at MRI evaluation of their body to detect decades sooner this inflammatory fat that's going to steal away their ability to thrive and enjoy life.
Yeah, that's really important, because when you said that, I just thought of my wife when we were trying for our second child, and she had this huge teratoma. And because I'm in medicine, being a physician for so long, we went down with a pathologist. So we cut this teratoma out, and it had hair and it had teeth. And we cut out the body of this tumor, and the smell came out, this putrid smell. I've never forgotten that. And like you said, with the senses, that hit me. It almost was like a locked trauma that I had to work through, because we had to just see if we were going to have another child, and grateful to IVF that we did. But the senses made such a big difference. And now, of course, a DEXA scan, I'm going to ask you questions, but sometimes seeing the numbers is not, it's helpful, because some people are very data centric in their thinking, very analytical. I've just done a presentation. I'm sitting at one of my biggest clients now, and data, they in tech, they're in technology, so it's helpful. But for most people, they need to see, touch, feel, smell, if they can, what's going down in their bodies. And I think your calling with regards to this organ fat, I think, is crucially important. But how important is a DEXA scan, and is it valuable with regards to all the, if you've got visceral, like I got 60 grams now of visceral fat, does that mean my heart's got less fat? Is it directly correlated in terms of visceral adipose tissue?
Yes, so heart fat and visceral fat always correlate. There's a huge correlation to it. So a good, I have a scan that actually shows both abdominal fat with the heart fat at the same time. So I'll pull that up behind me to show you, because it's a great question, Steve. A lot of people fail to understand that if they have visceral fat in a DEXA scan, that also means that they're going to have a proportionate amount of fat around their heart. And it's fat, like you mentioned at the beginning, epicardial adipose tissue. Adipose is the medical term for fat. So it's fat in the epicardial space up against and surrounding your myocardium. And your myocardium is your heart, where your coronary arteries lie. And a lot of people don't realize that the arteries that are responsible for you having a heart attack and maybe killing you are on the outer surface of the heart up against this inflammatory fat that's mediating disease into those arteries. So this is the abdomen of an individual that we're scanning. Their feet are down here. Their head is up here. Above their abdomen is their lungs, their chest. And this is their back, and this is their front. So it's kind of a slice in this direction, right smack dab in the middle of that individual. And so directly above the abdomen is the chest, and in the middle of the chest is the heart. And so fat shows up on an MRI as white. So this individual has almost all visceral fat inside of them. That's all visceral fat. And then the corresponding amount of fat around their epicardium is this big chunk of fat surrounding their heart. And so a lot of people fail to appreciate and don't know anything about heart fat, this inflammatory fat that is the number one substance inside your body that is going to kill you.
Wow.
The number one is this heart fat, not cholesterol. You can pull all the studies you want and see that actually the higher your cholesterol, the lower your mortality. So if you're looking for the boogeyman, you're looking for what is going to be your single threat. It's not your visceral fat, it's the fat around your heart, because chances are what will kill a man or woman, the number one cause of death, mortality, is heart attacks. And the number one contributing cause of those heart attacks is this inflammatory fat up against those arteries and disease in the heart. So stare at the enemy. You're looking, ladies and gentlemen, at what is most likely to kill you.
Wow.
What is most likely to kill you? It's not a car wreck. It's not cancer. It's not being in the wrong place at the wrong time, being shot. It is a heart attack. And this is your number one threat. Start mitigating your threats, your biggest threat. Start with that fat there and get rid of it. If you get rid of this, you get rid of this. If you get rid of this, you get rid of that.
Incredible picture. Well done for the screen at the back. I mean, I've done over 260 episodes. It's so visually appealing. Like you said, once you can see it and once clients and patients can see it, then maybe they'll make more changes, because I mean, it's quite, I mean, your heart, you've got this picture as this pumping red, wonderful organ. And then you don't realize that that picture should be surrounded by all this white adipose tissue. I mean, that's what it really looks like if you've got all this endocardial adipose tissue. And like you've said before, that I've picked up listening to you, that white tissue is radioactive. I mean, it's not really radioactive, but it's causing some significant diseases wherever it touches and wherever it goes.
Yeah, I think it's a it's a good way, a good descriptor is calling it radioactive. Carl Lenore calls it radioactive to get people's attention how bad it is. He's a longtime host, 30-some years of Superhuman Radio. He's a really cool dude. But this shows a heart of a client patient who came to me that had a heart attack and a month before he came to see me. And this is his heart, his right lung, his left lung. And surrounding his heart was this huge enveloping area constricting his heart of, with all that inflammatory fat causing disease, and it caused his heart attack. So you don't want any. This is the septum between the right side of left side of the heart and the right side of the heart. And you can see that septa, and really what I like to show people is to get them to understand that they don't want any of that heart, any fat around their heart whatsoever. And so this is a better comparison view of a diseased heart, the guy that had a heart attack, and my own heart. Okay, right at the same level, I have no fat around my heart. And so that's the way it's supposed to be. You don't want this fat around your heart, and just the ability for that heart to beat. If you got this big chunk of fat around your heart. I had a production in my house yesterday, and this guy in his 30s came over, and he was getting short of breath. He could barely talk going up and down the steps, and he was a heavy-set, obese guy. And all I could think about was, Sean, how big is the chunk of fat around this guy's heart? And so I'm like, this is why he's short of breath. If you ever wonder why you're short of breath walking up steps, let me tell you, audience, you should not be short of breath walking upstairs. That's disease. And it's not you're out of shape. You got a big chunk of fat constricting your heart. I'm sorry, I need to tell you the truth. Quit kidding yourself that you're just a couch potato. You're out of shape. You have disease around your heart.
Sure. Well said. Well said. And that message needs to go far and wide, Dr. Sean, far and wide. And I don't think people realize the extent of this. I think it's an organ. It's just causing downstream effects wherever you go. And just maybe explain to people that if they've got visceral adipose tissue, if they've got this endocardial adipose tissue, what it does to your hormones, what it does to your sleep, what it does to the rest of your life, what it does to just your ability to function cognitively.
Yeah. So this is a person with very little heart fat around the heart. You can see that left anterior descending, their widowmaker, and their right coronary artery, they got a little bit more of that heart fat. But you can see this person who died from a heart attack, how much more of that fat they have around their left anterior descending and their right coronary artery. So it gives your audience an idea what this stuff looks like. But you're exactly right. You know, it's inflammatory and it has so much downstream consequence. So not only is this impairing your ability to for your heart to beat and to actually function, but it is causing systemic inflammation all over your body. So this is a heart with very little disease. This is a middle-aged, person like in their 30s. And this is, Steve, everybody that has come to me age 50 and above has a heart that has this degree of disease in it. Look how every part of that surface of that heart, every part is covered in inflammatory fat. And so their abdomen is filled with visceral fat as well. And all that fat is secreting tumor necrosis factor alpha, interleukins, inflammatory molecules being spread 24 hours a day, destroying your body. So let me speak to the female population following you right now. Is the appearance of your face important? Do you want to have a pretty face? Do you feel like your face is becoming less attractive as you're getting older? It's because of this fat that's surrounding your heart and fat filling your abdomen and the fat filling your muscles, including the muscles in your face. And it's why women become very unattractive. But let me address one other point. You know what no other doctors really talk about? They don't talk about women and menopause enough. Because you know what happens when menopause kicks in? You women don't like menopause. And why? Let's face it. That's when I say it. You just don't hate me. The ugly button gets pushed. And the reason the ugly button gets pushed when you start becoming less attractive is you start looking like a man. And the reason women start looking like old men when they hit menopause, and sometimes you see them when they're really old and you can't figure it out. Is that a man or a woman? The reason is women are catching up with men with visceral fat. And you get this protection, and while you're in your reproductive state before you hit menopause, where you don't form as much visceral fat, and you by and large look pretty good, ladies, until right about 48 to 54, when you hit menopause and that visceral fat kicks in and your faces become inflamed. But us guys, our faces become inflamed a lot earlier. So here's an example of my face in my 20s, and then look at my face when I'm 48. You see that? See how I've become inflamed and puffy, and I have this look of kind of a diseased look, like I'm aging. Well, I'm really not aging as much as I'm diseasing because of influence of visceral fat. Men put on visceral fat at a much higher rate than women do, and women start putting it on in menopause. But here's where I found out about visceral fat, and then look how much my face changed over this period of time. I started to get rid of visceral fat, and my face, resumed a healthier appearance. So that's what you want to do. And I'll just show real quick females, a nice example in females can be seen in this particular image right here. This is the only radiologist in the world who's reading visceral fat now, Steve. This female radiologist, she's a radiologist here and doesn't know anything about visceral fats, not reading it. She's accumulating it inside from here to here. And then look at her face, what happened to her. So here she's about, I think about 54 at that time. And this is when she meets me. And I walk in her office. She's chief of radiology at the hospital that I'm on staff at. And I beg her to listen to me about this dangerous visceral fat. And it's remarkable that this ER physician is trying to educate a radiologist about visceral fat in MRI scans and CT scans that are being ignored. She was so sweet. She listened to me. And then look how much she's changed her face by getting rid of her visceral fat. So ladies, if you're going like this, then you can go from here to this and start looking like how you formerly did if you would only get rid of your visceral fat and attack it. So I'm trying to do the best I can to promote awareness across both sexes, males and females. It's really that important.
Yeah, brilliant. And well done to you, because I think it's absolutely necessary. The accuracy of the DEXA scan, is it a good starting point for people listening out there? Of course, we'd want the MRI and to see a physician. And, 48% of our listeners are in the US. And so we'll put the links to Dr. Amara and all his clinics he's practicing. We've got 4 locations in 4 different states. But is a DEXA a good starting place? I mean, I'll give you an example. One of my very good mates, he became a professional cyclist, and he's the CIO of a very, very big organization here in Africa. And he was much leaner than me. And we went and did the DEXA scan. He was part of the program here at one of the big organizations. And his body fat was, overall was 17.5%. Mine was 20%. But my visceral fat was only 120 grams, and his was 3 times higher than mine. He was sitting at I think 700-800 grams. Tell us about the accuracy of the DEXA, if it's a good start. And secondly, what a TOFI is.
Yeah. So my comment would be, did he do anything about it?
He did, and he's reduced it significantly. And we put in place, because he was a cyclist and he was exercising really hard. He was always looked at, he was lean, but he was having muffins and, bread rolls every single day. And so,
well, it's super fortunate that he had you to help him out. Do you think, how much of an influence do you think you played there, Steve, in him helping understand what he had to do?
No, I think 100%. He wasn't even aware of it. He hadn't done a DEXA. DEXA is only coming to South Africa in the last probably 9 months. And so taking him there, explaining to him about visceral adipose tissue, you've been part of that journey because I've been following you for a while, and saying, listen, we've got to get your visceral adipose tissue down. He made the changes, and within 3 months, he's cut it by half already. So, and it's been hard for him because he's been having muffins for I don't know how long and bread rolls every single day. And he's always been, well, I cycle, I exercise 7 days a week. I'm fit, I'm strong. I'm the best in my category. He finishes in the top of races, but he was ingesting the wrong foods and his nutrition wasn't up there. And he was quite shocked to see that he had 3 times more visceral fat than I did.
Well, the DEXA scan is probably on average about half the cost, or maybe a third of the cost of an MRI scan. but it only gives you your visceral fat and numeric representation, doesn't image at all or quantify your heart fat. And so here's a guy with a big chunk of fat. He came to me at 53, and he repeated this scan about a year and a half later, significant reduction in his heart fat. So this is what an MRI will allow you to see, that difference instead of just a number. And this was his abdominal scan, all that white when he came in, and he had a repeat scan afterwards, and you could see how much dramatic reduction he had in his abdominal scan, but also his legs. This guy was a professional football player, the biggest type, the offensive lineman. They're the strongest and biggest on an American football team. His legs look like Wagyu beef by the time he's 53. He had all these streaks of fat. But again, when he did his repeat scan, significant improvement in his scan, and he had cortical growth increase in his bone. So that's another advantage that we can see in that MRI scan. But look at what happened to his face during this time. So, wow, significant improvement from his face here when he came to me to, 1 year later, how much he improved his face. So you just won't get these kind of effects with a DEXA scan. They're not going to grab you and help you make decisions. There are hundreds of thousands of DEXA scans being done, and the vast majority of people get a number and then never do anything about it. They don't have a friend that can engage them and help them, tell them, this is what you got to do. And this is how, if you make these strategies, these changes, you'll significantly improve it. But it really does come down significantly to this inflammatory fat that goes through your body and destroys your body slowly, trickle, and you don't even realize that this is happening. It's so compelling, slowly inside of you, and it's being ignored. So let me just show you this really interesting relationship between faces and visceral fat that nobody, your viewers will have never seen this before, but it's incredibly compelling, and it's important, I think, to show. So let me just pull this image up and allow your viewers to see it. So here are two different MRI scans. So I've shown you how visceral fat inflames the faces of people. This is one guy. Here's another guy. They've got different amounts of visceral fat because they're different individuals. Try to imagine how inflamed looking these faces are. Pure imagination, maybe you're AI, and you're just going to try to figure out what these faces are going to look like. And if you're watching this podcast, do the same thing. All right, I'm talking to you, everybody in the audience. Imagine what these faces are going to look like. So I'll give you a few seconds. Now I'm going to show you. I'm going to put their faces right next to it, okay? You guys ready? Yeah. They're kids. Crazy. This is happening to kids because now they're eating sugary cereals and waffles and pancakes and syrup and all these carbohydrates and processed foods, but they look like just standard average kids. They're walking by you in the shopping mall. And I have permission to show their photographs from their parents because their parents want you to see this. And I'm talking to you. So you're aware of what's happening and what happened to you in your life and is happening to kids all over. But watch what happens when visceral fat leaves these kids' faces. Look how much they change.
Totally different.
Completely different kids. Their thin little pale lips, now big, beautiful red saturation of their hemoglobin molecules, now beautifully saturated with oxygen, very, very rich blood. This is health when you get rid of visceral fat. It doesn't just happen to middle-aged people. It happens to old people. And it happens to children. And so the family that these kids were part of all came together with me, and they brought their grandparents, wanted everybody to see how much they improved. So this is the mom when she came to me, the mom today.
Wow.
Beautiful, how much she improved her face. And here's grandpa. Grandpa could barely walk when he came to me. And look at grandpa now. He looks like he's kind of like a movie star. This is what happens. Old, middle-aged, or young, you get rid of this deadly inflammatory fat and you just improve your face. Here's grandma. She looks like just an older lady. But now she looks like an elegant older lady. What do you want to be when you grow up? When you're older? Do you want to be old and diseased? Or do you want to maintain some elegance and influence for whatever you do? So I work with high-end clients who are purposing to be the best biological version of themselves, to be better influencers. The average person just won't get this. They'll listen to this and they'll be eating popcorn like it's some sort of an entertaining, podcast. But there's a rare person out there that says, this makes total sense. I want to be the best biological version of myself. I want to be a better influencer. Sales is important to me. Leadership is important to me. I'm a political officer. Whatever you do, if that's the type of personality I have, you really need to get rid of your visceral fat. And we would be interested in maybe working with you. So that's what I do. I enjoy leveraging people that are trying to become better influencers, because how healthy you are is portrayed in your face and appearance of your body. And it tells the story of how well you're living. And if you're living well, people pay more attention to you. You're more of an influencer because in their mind, they have software that's been developed over the course of hundreds of thousands of years that tell humans to pay attention to healthy appearing humans because they may make you live better yourself. So we're hunters, and we think that people that look really healthy might help us hunt better. And today, that's making money, earning a living. So we pay attention to the man or woman that appears more biologically optimized, more healthy. So that's what I do. I leverage that trait in people that are influencers to get them more healthy so that they can be more influential in their lives.
Yeah, changing people's lives, transforming their careers so that they can make the world a better place. I mean, it's incredible. And
That's it.
And your message is get this visceral adipose tissue down because it's causing massive inflammatory problems in the body. And talking to that space from a hormonal aspect, I mean, I know you mentioned the interleukin 6/10. We do these tests as functional medicine docs. We do HSCRP. Once you've got this, I mean, I've seen people's levels of inflammatory markers. I mean, I've been in functional medicine 18 years now. I've never seen inflammation like this in the body, ever.
Yeah. No, it's exactly right. You'll find, Steve, in your patients that have elevated amounts of HSCRP and maybe higher fasting insulin levels, you'll find higher levels of visceral adiposity. So you can look in their medical records. You'll be able to go back and look at CT scans. CT scans also show visceral fat, Stephen, and I try to, educate as many physicians as possible to exploit CT scans and look at their medical records and go back and see that. So if anybody's ever had a heart attack or any serious pathology, you should be going back and looking at their CT scans. If they've ever had one done, look in their medical diagnostics and look for a CT scan and see what it shows, because you'll be able to read in a CT scan. Of course, right now I can't find my CT scan, but the only difference with the CT, oh, there it is. The only difference CT scan is that visceral fat shows up as white or dark black, and muscles show up as white and lighter. So here are your obliques, your subcutaneous fat. You can still see the deep subcutaneous fat through scarpus fascia, that membrane, deep subcutaneous fat, superficial subcutaneous fat, and all that black inside inside of them, excuse me, is visceral fat inside the abdomen, right at the level of the umbilicus. So go back and look at your patient's previous imagery and see if they've ever had a CT of the abdomen. They're incredibly common, particularly in females. At least in the United States, anybody comment is a female that gets abdominal pain, there's very high chance that they're going to get a CT of their abdomen, but nothing gets done with it, from a preventive standpoint. And I think back all those thousands of women that I scanned in the ER, if I'd only had a conversation, my God, you're loaded with visceral fat. This is probably why you have belly pain and causing you discomfort and a whole host of chronic disease, but it's not done. No, at least in our country, radiologists don't read visceral fat with the exception of Dr. Rosa, and physicians don't read it. It's the saddest thing. So be the exception, Steve, with your patients. Look at their old scans, send them for new ones. Tell them to go, if your insurance system their insurance won't pay for it, tell them to pay out of pocket and spend, about $300 in the United States. These things average, within the reach of anybody, to get a abdominal MRI scan and see how much visceral fat. The other difference between CTs is they do use radiation. So if you don't need contrast on a MRI scan, you don't need contrast on a CT scan, but there is ionizing radiation exposure with the CT. So that's why I prefer the MRI. That along the fact that it gives a much higher degree of resolution, that we can see these fat depots a lot more clearly.
So the bottom line is go for an MRI if you can, but there's a good chance if you look at your face, that's a good indication in regards to your visceral adipose tissue. I guess if you take a tape measure and you measure around your waist to hip ratio, how important is that? Because I think 93% of Americans are considered unhealthy. 85% of South Africans are considered unhealthy by 5 basic metrics: blood pressure, HDL, triglycerides, waist to hip ratio, or even just waist. And what would you say the importance? Someone's listening out there and saying, okay, tape measure, ratios out, fat is accumulating over the face doesn't look as healthy. Then I need to go and find someone like you. I think we've only got one physician in the whole of South Africa, or 2, that are using MRIs for visceral adipose tissue, and they don't really know the clinical relevance from what I understand, the research I've done. So tell us how important it is for people in terms of reducing this visceral adipose tissue, and the techniques. Is it because you can't out-exercise a bad diet? What are the most important things that people can do to reduce endocardial adipose tissue and visceral adipose tissue?
Well, one of the first things you can do before even you get an MRI is, rather than doing a waist circumference, like waist to hip ratio, which is better, I think, than a BMI, but way better as a metric, a measurement, is to measure from the small of your back to the anterior aspect of your abdomen, your most protuberant point where your belly sticks out. And don't suck it in, fellas or women. You don't, suck it in. Just at a comfortable, where you live, where your belly normally lies, you want a straight line measuring that distance. And I used to have this ruler device that I used to measure, that device with, and I'd measure scans of people coming in, did it on soldiers. And then I had a patient, a female nurse who worked in a medical practice that I was working part-time in. I was trying to measure her abdominal diameter, and poor thing, it went way past the ruler. And I had to get a yardstick, to measure that distance there. So, you know, if you may have to get a yardstick, a big, huge measuring stick to measure it, but measure that distance. And that's called the sagittal abdominal diameter. And also you can see this in my own scan here. My belly is sticking out. Do you see that curve? That big curve? That starts happening in men and women from the influence of visceral fat, because you lose your abdominal musculature. The weakness of your muscles deteriorate through atrophy, through sarcopenia. And then as you eliminate visceral fat and your body recovers, look how that curve lessens and becomes straight. So from here to here is 4 years. You can see the appearance of my skeleton. I no longer have a curved back like I had here. I'm more straight up and down. And then look at the dramatic improvement in my vasculature. And my abdomen, I started becoming more hairy. I grew more hair because my body recovered. My blood flow improved, considerably in there. And another interesting aspect is, besides your belly bulging out, even when you don't have visceral fat, if you lose it, your belly's going to bulge out for a while because it can't keep your guts in the way it used the way it used to formerly when you were younger, because your muscles become weaker. So a person in their 20s has a flat abdomen, Steve, when they're in front of you. A teenager, from their intercostal margins to their pubic symphysis, is a straight line. You can press down when you're doing an abdominal scan. The tonicity of the abdominal musculature is nice and firm. You can feel the firing, the tone going on in a rested state. But in a patient that has sarcopenia, you'll have this accentuation of the intercostal margins. You see this sagging down, this concavity of the abdominal muscles are weakened. But you really want a much more straight, flat abdomen. And this person's 53, and this is me, age 61. And so this, you don't have to have atrophied muscles. And then we tested hand grip, which is a great test. And I hope you in functional medicine practice get a dynamometer. This person's hand grip was 34 kilograms. And then my hand grip, older, is 72. Wow. So double this guy's hand grip. I'm off the chart for I'm 62 today, but that hand grip test was
happy birthday.
A few months ago.
Happy birthday. Jeez. And you're doing a podcast on your birthday. That's your
Well, I'm 62, meaning right now as we talk. Okay. I had a birthday about 2 weeks ago.
Oh, cool. Happy birthday. You strong?
Thank you.
Showing significant, muscle. And that's, I think, what you could also speak into is how are people going to remediate, and decrease visceral adipose tissue, or those that are younger prevent it?
Yeah. So the first thing I tell people to do is to stop eating, put out the fire, stop eating processed food. So this is a series of MRI scans that have never been done in the history of humanity. It's only been done one time, and it needs to be duplicated many, many other times. But here's a guy who's 70 years old, filled with visceral fat. We just painted it red. And his subcutaneous fat, we colored it yellow. And his muscles show that fat in his muscles, those red streaks. And in 2 weeks, you can see he's reduced his visceral fat. Even though if you're watching, you've never been in medical school, your brain is already, through your senses, telling you less disease. And that's a powerful pickup. But by the time he goes from week 0 to week 35, look how much he's reduced his visceral fat by week 35. And his muscles considerably improved from that visceral fat. Dramatic reduction. And now he's got a 6-pack compared to his dad bod when he was laying there. And this guy, the reason why this was only done one time in the history of humanity is the experiment here is the only thing this guy did was he cut out processed foods. That's all he did. He eliminated processed foods and was just eating meat and vegetables, no processed foods. And this is the dramatic result inside a human being that eliminates processed foods. This scan right here is the scariest 6 photographs ever possible for the processed food industry. If this gets out and spreads across the globe, people will stop eating processed foods. So that's why I do shows and talk about it. So when anybody ever asks me, well, what do you got to do to get rid of this visceral fat? I quickly pull out this image and tell them about what was revealed just by processed foods. So that's the first thing we tell people to do, stop eating processed foods. And then another way to answer this is for your audience, they need to understand what also causes visceral fat besides processed foods is alcohol. So I can give them a bunch of strategies for optimizing the elimination of visceral fat. And we give people 50 things to work on, lots of things, because we studied this for 13 years, becoming the best experts in the world on eliminating fat around the heart and fat in muscle and fat in the abdomen. So we're up to 50 individual strategies now to eliminate this fat. But if they did all 50, but they continue to drink, Steve, we just can't eliminate the visceral fat as quickly or as easily. There's something about alcohol that destroys your metabolism and your body's ability to exploit and through lipolysis, burn off, mobilize that visceral fat and fat away from the heart. So drinking just keeps you in a diseased, suboptimal state. And so drinkers who come to me, I show this to them. Not everybody gives up alcohol because it can be a very hard thing and it's a personal decision. But after they do these strategies for a while, they end up pulling away from alcohol, and then we really see the elimination of that visceral fat. The third thing besides alcohol and processed foods is poor sleep. So if you're not sleeping good, you are going to impair your ability to mobilize that fat, and you'll cause more visceral fat around your heart and visceral fat in your abdomen and inside your muscles. So sleeping becomes really important. So we could do several shows just how to improve your sleep, but for sure, cutting out blue light and artificial light at night. If you just did this, turn off your lights in your house when the sun goes down, and switch on pink Himalayan salt, candles or salt lamps, so you have a nice red glow that looks like a campfire around your house. And then don't watch your TVs and your blue light emitting, cell phones. If you put on a pair of blue blocking glasses, if you absolutely have to open up an email or something on at nighttime, you'll contribute to much better sleep. And then the fourth thing is stress. People don't recognize stress as a killer, but it causes increased levels of cortisol, telling their body to lay down and hold on to fat forming around their heart and around their abdomen. And this is why people are under a lot of stress, very stressful jobs, and they have heart attacks. Well, it was stress played an indirect role, but what really killed them was the consequence of that stress forming disease around the heart that led to that heart attack that killed people. And the last big area we see is actually what you're talking about: cycling and running, distance exercise. So there's a sweet spot when it comes to exercise. And if you do too much cycling, too much distance running, it tells your body to hold on to fat. And you've already seen this, Steve, and burn subcutaneous fat. So what do these cyclists look like? They got no subcu fat, and on the inside, they've got big chunks of fat around their heart and inside their abdomen. So what does it show up as? AFib. So if you just Google distance running, distance cycling, atrial fibrillation, have AI pull the studies and show the alignment to inflammatory, epicardial adipose tissue around the heart, causing perturbation of the myocardium and the intraatrial septum. You get this fat collecting within the left and right, the septum between the left and right atrium, where the electrical conduction systems fire. Your Purkinje fibers, taking you back to medical school, which is how the electrical conduction wave propagates across the heart with this beautiful coordinated constriction of your heart. But if you interpose in there all this inflammatory fat, then you screw with the electrical system and it just doesn't fire correctly and you get disease, AFib. So you distance cyclists out there, you distance runners can accumulate this fat and not be aware of it. So for God's sakes, spend $300 and end the lie. The MRI ends the lie. You're not as healthy as you think. Just because you look so good on the outside, you're not looking at the disease on the inside.
Yeah, I think that's important, but then you also need a good team around you. So this is where someone like you, Dr. Amara, maybe you can just suggest anyone else in the States who's doing this. I mean, I know you're in 4 states or in the world. Do you have colleagues in Europe or the UK? We're in 159 countries now. So because at the end of the day, you can go for an MRI, but if the physician looking at the MRI can't interpret the data and how important it is, well, what's the point of that? And I think that's crucially important with regards to the education and training of other physicians.
Yeah, no, it's very critically important. So, Steve, we put together a course how to get rid of visceral fats and this heart fat, and we call it Alpha Maker. And it's available right now. It's a community of people coming together to learn about this and how to get rid of it. And we put this course and program together. But I'm going to be doing the physician equivalent of this for just physicians, because all these people, here's what I think is going to happen. You asked about predictions in the future. I think very quickly it's going to get to a disruptive-minded transformationalist like an Elon Musk or a RFK Jr. in our country. These are people that, swim against the conventional system for something better. They're just not going to keep doing the same thing just because you sheep are doing it. They're going to find out something better. And what it's going to be is they're going to learn. RFK Jr. does not know about visceral fat or heart fat. Neither does Elon Musk yet. And otherwise, he'd spend 300 of his $100 billion or whatever he's got now that he owns. He'd spend $300 and see if he's going to drop dead of a heart attack or at risk for it. Take a look at that fat around his heart. But nobody knows about heart fat can get to him. So if you're listening today, everybody, they start tagging Elon Musk. Good luck. You think your social media post is going to be read but go ahead, try to get it to him. The point is, when we get a social media influencer who gets aware of visceral fat, what's going to happen is the consumer is going to change from paying attention to the ruse that's been foisted on them by the conventional healthcare system, big pharma, big food, big healthcare system called cholesterol, which nobody gets better at watching, but let's have them all be terrified of it so that nobody gets better. Duh! That's why you're falling apart with disease. You're tracking what doesn't matter. Yeah. But if you switch at the consumer level to a system that tracks what really matters and makes people better, like who improves their face that much? Who improves their body that much? Tracking cholesterol. Nobody. Yeah. But everybody who gets rid of heart fat and visceral fat improves their face, improves their body, improves their performance, improves the quality of their lives. So when that happens, heads up, the whole system is going to change, and people will be paying attention to seeing how everybody that's getting rid of visceral fat is looking better and doing better and living better. So that's the transformation that I think will happen in the future. It's called disruption. And I'll just tell you, it's going to dust what Amazon did. Jeff Bezos and retail space, when you completely change people from causing disease, and the largest part of the economy is trying to treat it, and you wipe that out to people getting better, you're going to change humanity forever. So anybody who's really on the mindset of a Jeff Bezos, a big disruptor, if you really know Elon Musk or RFK Jr., contact me. I want to disrupt healthcare. I want to help humanity with its biggest problem, which is chronic disease.
Yeah, well done. And we'll get some studies from you. We'll get links to those. You'll get your team's details to put links to that course that you offer. Elon Musk's uncle, his dad's brothers, actually works in the medical building that I've been in for 26 years. So I'll take those studies and I'll pass them on to him, because looking at Elon Musk's face, you can see he's got a lot of visceral adipose tissue, which means he's got a lot of adipose tissue around his heart. If you just look
at well, Steve, scan his brother. Get his brother to be scanned, and you get him scanned, and I'll be happy to give him free, free advice and put him in our course and help him get rid of it, because it will change his life forever. His appearance, he'll get Elon to do the same thing.
Yeah, it's Elon's dad's brother is in the same building. He's been a
it's his uncle. Yeah, well, get Elon's uncle to do this and send him to me. I'll take care of him for free across the internet.
That'll be amazing. Well, I want to just declare favor and blessing over you, Dr. Sean. Where can people connect with you, and where are your clinics as we close down the show?
Yeah, so you can connect with me on my website, Dr. Sean O'Mara, DrSeanOmara.com, DrSeanOmara.com on the website. And I'm on social media, Instagram, Twitter, X, YouTube, LinkedIn, all under the same at DrSeanOmara. And I'll be happy to come back and chat some more anytime with you, Steve.
Sure, Sean, thanks for an incredible show. Well done. Really appreciate it. Your time, your energy, your charisma. Having this in the background has been, I've done over 260 shows. What a great way to show people to see it visually and hear it. That's absolutely amazing. So just warm welcome. If you ever want to come to South Africa, come to Johannesburg. Incredible place, and amazing bucket list place, from safari to Vic Falls up by Zambia and Cape Town. We'd host you. I'd take some time off just to, spend some time with an incredible, courageous physician. So please feel welcome.
All right. Well, thank you for the warm invitation to come to your city and your country, Steve. And again, for having me on your show and being able to share me with your audience.